Welcome to Unstoppable Faith with Dr. Kazumba Charles. This program is designed to inspire you to stand on the Word of God and to help you build unshakable and unstoppable faith in Jesus Christ. Here's your host, Dr. Kazumba.
You're from LA, and you told me that there are a few people from Lower Anderson, South Carolina, right? That y'all claim to fame. Chadwick Boseman, and who else did you say?
Radio,
the movie.
If you ever seen the movie Radio from Cuba that Cuba Gooding Jr. was in, Radio lived in Anderson, South Carolina.
And of course, Anderson knows all about Shawn Bigby, right? So the three highlights, at least that we are aware of. But you coming from that place, a lot of people think when it comes to geographical location, you already you know where I'm going.
I know exactly where you're going.
They would say that you're from the wrong LA because nobody's going to find you in LA. No one's going to find you in Columbia, South Carolina, wherever you're from. No one's going to find you in Ontario. No one's going to find you in Zambia. No one's going to find you in, let me tell you, God knows your address. He placed you right. And you would not have the wisdom to share with us in this book if you were not in that place.
In that place. Bible says that there's a name for God that we find. I want to say it's in Genesis, and I should know it right off the top of my head, but I don't. So y'all go back. Media people can go back and put it up under the screen, and they can work it all out. But Abraham, when he goes and he has a child outside of the covenant, not a child with Sarah, but a child outside of the covenant, and the child's name is Ishmael. Ishmael's mother is Hagar, who was a servant, and so she runs away because pretty much Sarah got upset. Kicked her out the house, said, I don't even want her around. Kicked her out the house after she said, yeah, Abraham, you can go ahead and have a child with her. That's a whole nother story. Kicks her out the house. She goes and runs away, and she goes crying, weeping. She's depressed. And God shows up and talks to her. And she says, wow, you're El Roi, the God that sees me. And so we get this picture of no matter, where I am, if God has ordained for my life to be here or to be here in Columbia, to be in Anderson, South Carolina, he sees me. Yeah. And I have to do what I need to do to be in the place where he expects me. I've never thought about it this way. When God comes down to see Adam and he's walking in the garden after they've sinned, he's looking for them. Why is he looking for them? Because they're not in the place where he expected them to be. Adam and Eve have messed up and went and hid themselves. And God comes walking around and is like, Adam, wait, dude, where you at? Like, we've been meeting here. This is where I put you. We've been coming to the same spot to meet, and now you're not there. And so it's the same mentality that we have to have. Like, God put me here. I'm going to be here until God says go somewhere else, until he gives me new instructions. He sees me. He knows exactly where I am. And so Anderson, as small as it may be, and here we go, Anderson is located 2 hours from Atlanta, 2 hours from Charlotte. So those are bigger cities. It seems like you could go to those places and make it musically or whatever. But I told God, I said, God, I love where I am. I love my church. I love my home church, Mount Zion Baptist Church. I love my spiritual father, Pastor Kenneth Dean. I'm still connected there. If anything ever goes awry, I'll go all the way back to my home church and do what I need to do. And so, I know that's where, but when God called me to do things nationally, he pulled me from Anderson. I didn't go looking in Charlotte. I didn't go looking in Atlanta. He called me from Anderson and said, Shawn, I see you. And now is the next time. Now is the time for your next season. Now is the time to move on to the next thing. So he sees you.
So he sees you. So let's take a little bit of a turn, because I don't want to run out of time, because I see you're trouble, brother. You starting stuff here, and I'm trying to talk about your book. Okay, I'm trying to promote. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to promote this book so people can get this information. All right. So this book, On and Off the Platform. You wrote this book, and I am sure that you have seen, because I saw some of the content of the book. I'm sure you have seen ministry done wrong. I feel like sometimes one of the great indications of your purpose is your frustration. And so isn't that good? Like when you see something that just always gets on your nerves, it's probably because there's something in you that you have to.
Yep.
So let's talk about this book. What are in this book, on and off the platform? What are you speaking to? What is that frustration in you as a leader that says, you know what, this is not just a normal frustration. Maybe this is a holy frustration. Maybe this is vision speaking to a problem, and God's placed something in me to help change that reality for somebody.
So there are a couple of different things. It's strategic that I called it a blueprint for worship facilitators. I'm not saying that this book holds all the answers, but what I wanted to do was give verbiage and give language to those frustrations that we feel, while also helping people to introspectively think about what it is that I do as a worship facilitator. What it is that, how do I help my team to do better? And so there's a chapter in particular that jumps out to me, even as you were talking, called the chapter's called "Bless the Lord with Me, Please." And in this particular chapter, I address some of the frustrations that people may have when their church doesn't seem to engage with worship like we do. You know, sometimes there can be a huge gap or a chasm, if you would, between the worship team and the choir, the ministry, whatever it is, and the parishioners that we're supposed to be serving. And so in this chapter, I talk about, you know, how to understand what are some symptoms or some things, some reasons why your church may not be engaging. Could it be that you take the superstar mentality, which means that I'm all engaged when I'm on stage, but when I'm not leading, my hands are down to the side and I'm never engaged in the rest of the service, simply saying the service is about me. And so that's why, and because, I mean, people watch us. When you're a leader, people are watching you when you sit down, when you stand up, when you're walking in the mall, whatever the case may be, you're leading. Leadership never turns off. You don't get to take the leadership badge off and say, I'm not going to be a leader today. You're always a leader. And so could that be one of the reasons? Could one of the reasons be that your team is not engaged? You're giving all that you got, and your team is just now kind of like, well, okay, you go ahead and lead and sing and jump around and stuff, and we're just going to do your background vocals. This is one thing I found through the years. Most people that we serve never see themselves in the front person because they don't see themselves as leaders like that. So they actually see themselves more so in the background singers. They see themselves doing that. They don't see themselves. So they expect us to jump around. They expect us to be exuberant and all of this. But the background singers, if they're not, then they're going to be on their level. Another thing is, and this will be the last one, could your church not be engaged because we don't take the time to teach worship in our churches? Just like we teach tithing, the blood, communion, all the sacraments and certain tenets of faith, worship has to be taught. And oftentimes the worship team, the worship leader, the choir goes off to the worship conference, gets fired up for God, and comes back to people who did not receive the same impartation. And so one of the things that we've done in my ministry is we take the month of May and we spend every Wednesday of Bible study and we teach on worship. I teach on worship. My pastors teach on worship. We take that time because it's ingrained in the DNA of our church. And that's not something that I started. That's something that they were actually already doing. They've always taught on worship. And I said, let's make it a whole month and let's teach on worship for that month. And so just like all of the other things that are a part of our DNA has to be retaught because we're always growing. Churches are growing all the time. And so you're getting inundated and indoctrinated with so many new people who need to understand, well, what is this worship? If you got somebody who comes straight off the street, they don't know what worship is. They don't have an understanding of it. And so they'll either just start looking around and try to learn it and assimilate it by, okay, I'm going to just copy what you do. But they don't ever get the heart and the understanding behind it. So, you know, those are just certain things to help churches learn how to bless, or help teams learn how to get the church to bless the Lord with them. And so those are areas that I talk about. And at the end of each chapter of the book, there's a section called Mapping the Blueprint. On the Mapping the Blueprint portion, it's a time for you as the reader or you and your team, however you all decide to do it, I pull some questions that will cause great introspection and help you think, okay, what are some areas where I failed in helping the church to bless the Lord with me? What are some areas that I need to work on? All of those types of things. I pull those questions and we ask those questions to cause some thought to come to it.
Now, I want to I want to talk to some worship leaders because, and I know everyone's not a worship leader, but I feel like we're kind of in a space where we can really help somebody. I feel like today is not about like your personal devotion with God, because that's really where you start. Let's just assume that we're talking to somebody who really has it together with God privately, and they're coming to the congregation, they're leading the church. I don't think you can't overstate the value of what it means to win your team. You can't, because everybody leads together. The sound that we make in worship from a Levitical priesthood standpoint has no single individual that stands out. Everybody has to be together in unity. Everybody has to be operating within the same standard. Everybody has to have the same revelation. Right. And that's really what produces the unity of worship. And I love the 2 Chronicles 5, the way that's outlined. It's really the unity of all of the people in their individual prospective places that are actually engaged in what God has called them to do individually from a collective standpoint together. That's what culminates into a glorious experience. So you can't overstate that. Let's talk about, how do you spend time getting the people that are ministering with you bought in, musicians, singers alike, so that you can really have a really amazing anointing as a group together?
So one of the things that I preach and will preach to the day that I leave this earth, and it's not as spiritual as some people would think. So it's not like, okay, we corporately fast for 30 days and we spend time, praying with each other over the phone. All of that's well and good and stuff. I preach, spend time together outside of rehearsal. Like, hang out. Because if I find out that you like chicken and I like chicken, then we got some commonality there, and our hearts can become even the more knitted, and we become even closer.
We're knitted as we feast on chicken together.
Knitted as we feast on, my God.
I'm making a mental note. We gonna knit our hearts together.
So it's this whole mentality. I listen to, I listen to a lot of music. And one of my favorite groups is the Clark Sisters. And I've had the chance to, to hang out with them and talk to them or whatever. And so oftentimes I ask them questions like, so when y'all rehearse and and they'll be like, we grew up rehearsing. We don't do as much rehearsing now, but you can't tell, because when they get on the stage, it sounds like they've been rehearsing every single day, and and they always together. They just spend time together, because if we spend time together, okay, let me talk about something a little bit more modern and bring it to a modern context. I'm a huge Lakers fan. I'm hoping that we can win this championship this year. But the big issue that everybody is talking about is the chemistry. And so what the Lakers are saying is, we just need time together. If we get time together, I can learn your nuances. If we get time together, I can figure out, what things you like to do. Like if you move your shoulder this way, then you're going to be moving this way, all those types of things. Right. And so all it is just spending time. So I tell teams all the time, my team, we do fellowships, we do potlucks, all of these types of things where we just spend time with each other and just hang out and love on one another. And if you do that, when you do those types of things, it builds camaraderie. It builds a symmetry to everybody. And so that's kind of where we operate. And that's one of the things that I think is so important and so vital to us as ministry, and to us as a ministry, and to you as a team.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I might be getting close to a wrap up. I feel like my team is telling me, listen, you've been talking for a minute. It's time to wrap this thing up. So help me with this. Would you give us one thing, if you had to say, hey, if there's this one thing I can drop a nugget about from this book, that if you remember nothing else from on and off the platform, a blueprint for worship facilitators, what would that be? And just over the next minute, just kind of drop that and encourage us to give us a little bit of wisdom.
Sure. So I guess the one thing that I would say, if I had to say anything concerning this book and its place, is I want to make sure that this book brings clarity and brings understanding, further understanding, and also plants in you a desire to want to learn more and more and more about facilitating worship. Worship is so, we use it, and there's a reason why I say facilitation. Because I think a lot of times we look at the term leading worship or worship leader, meaning that I'm just supposed to follow what you do. But oftentimes what we do is not leading, we're facilitating. Pastor William McDowell says this. He says that, we don't lead people into the presence of God. We lead people into the awareness that he's with us right now. And so it's this facilitation of moments. We're facilitating these worship moments, whether they're musical or not. We're facilitating worship moments. So even you, as a father, as a husband, as a wife, as a mother, you could be facilitating moments in your home that may not have anything to do with music, but you're facilitating these moments. And so that's my desire for the book. I want to help you to learn what things it takes to facilitate these moments of worship on an everyday, consistent basis. Yeah. And it's possible. It's so possible. It's not as deep as you think. It's not always snotting on the floor and laying down and falling and crying and all of this. All of that's well and good, but it's not just that. It's the little things. It's the little things like just waking up and talking to God daily. It's the little things like spending time with him and fasting and praying. It's those little things like being nice to people. Those types of things help you to consistently facilitate worship moments for other people. And so that's what I want you to get from this book. I want you to make it, be thoughtful and always cause your mind to think, okay, how is this going to impact my worship life? How is this going to impact my worship lifestyle? We always talk about worship as a lifestyle. So what am I doing to enhance the lifestyle that I have of worship?
Man, that is so good. Listen, I want to just encourage people right now that this book, is this book officially released everywhere? Where can we get this book?
You can get this book everywhere. ShawnBigby.com. That's my website. You can go there and get it. Amazon, Kindle, iTunes, or iBooks, ebooks, something or other. Barnes and Noble. It's going everywhere. Yeah. So yeah, you will be able to get it from wherever you need to get it from.
Well, listen, it's almost Christmas time, and even though Shawn and his wife aren't getting anything for Christmas, they're getting a baby, and this is the gift that's gonna keep on giving. Okay,
absolutely.
But for you guys watching Unstoppable Faith, I want you guys to get a copy of this book. Maybe get a copy or two for some folks. If you are at a church, listen, here's one of the things you can do for me. Listen, I get a lot of people at church sometimes that want to come up and they're not a part of the team, but they want to give you a little bit of advice or a little bit of complaints. Like listen, but
that's
they don't says,
that's it.
I want to complain. No, they say, you know what? How you doing? You doing all right? God bless you. I really enjoy your ministry. Listen. All right.
You know what you need to do? You know what you need to do?
Here's what you can do. Surprise your worship pastor, the worship leader, the team with this book. Hand it to them. That's a gift I think that is worth giving, and the wisdom in that book might be good. They may not do the song you want them to do, but they probably will read that book. And I feel like we all need to spend more time being educated and gleaning from the wisdom of other people who've done this for decades and done it on a very high level so that we can improve and we can grow. Now, here's why we're doing this. We're not seeking to grow so that we can be seen. Mm-hmm. We want to grow in what we do so that we can allow other people to see how great our God is. One of the challenges with leading worship is distractions.
Yeah.
And I believe that what a facilitator is doing, I love that word. A facilitator is helping to clear the clutter so people can have a vision of who God really is.
Yeah.
And so how do you do that? The practices, the principles, the practical things that you do, the way you teach. We do these things on purpose, not to perform for an audience of people, but to create an altar where the Holy Spirit can dwell and receive the worship of the people.
Right.
I love what you said. We're not leading people somewhere else. We're leading an awareness that God is here right now.
Right. Right.
Believe it or not, there's a lot of things that you can do from a very, very practical standpoint that will open up the room and remove the clutter so people can see, know, and personally experience the reality of Jesus.
Yeah.
Listen, Shawn, we're gonna have to write a song together. I don't know what
Absolutely.
but I feel like there's some chemistry, some synergy going on right here.
Absolutely.
Man, thank you for being a part of this episode and being a part of just imparting into people. And we're talking to people globally right now. And I'm telling you, there's somebody in some church and you think, this is what you think, well, I'm just doing this. I'm just in this place. Let me tell you, whenever you're worshiping the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, whenever you're ushering people into the reality of his presence, you are doing an incredibly important thing. It doesn't matter whether you have a lot of production, a lot of musicians. What you have is the presence of God. That's what you have. What you have is the favor of God. What you have is a calling from God. And that's incredibly important. And there's nothing more important than that. And one thing we're going to be doing from now throughout all eternity is worshiping.
God.
Come on, worshiping God. And no preaching in heaven, no evangelism in heaven.
No need for it.
We won't have a need for it, but we will be singing and worshiping and praising and culminating an eternity of intimacy in heaven with the Father. Thank you so much again. I'm so glad you were able to join us. I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in, watching, share this, tell other folks to check this out, tell your worship leader, hey, there's a good episode on Unstoppable Faith. And thank you, Dr. Charles, for allowing me to host Unstoppable Faith. God bless you. I love you. I'll see y'all next time.
You are here, turning lives around, and I worship you. I worship you. You are here, and you're mending broken hearts, and I worship you, Jesus. I worship you. Lift your hands. You are here, and you're touching everyone, and we worship you, Jesus. We worship you. You are here, and you're turning lives around, oh God, and I worship you. I worship you. And right here, we call you the Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. Can we lift that up together, everybody in this room? Sing it with me, say Waymaker, yeah, miracle worker, promise keeper, you're the light in the darkness, oh my God, say that is who you are. Now this time around, I want you to lift up your hands all over this room and offer him your worship. Come on, open your mouth. Bless his name. Thank him for making ways for you. Come on, I know he's done something for you. I know he's made a way for you. I know he's opened doors nobody else could have done. He's closed doors nobody else could have done. I need you to open up your mouth. Come on, Zion. Make some noise in this room. You audibly thank him, audibly bless him, audibly worship him. Open up your mouth. Give him glory because he's worthy, because he deserves it, and because he's deserving of it. Open up your mouth. Everybody say, Waymaker. Waymaker. Say, miracle worker, promise keeper, you're the light in the darkness, my God. Say, that is who you are. All over the room, we give you worship, Father. We call you the Y'all sound good, church. Come on, lift your hearts to the Lord. Say we, yeah. You're the promise keeper and the light. Oh, stay right there, stay right there. You move mountains, and you cause walls to fall, and with your power, perform miracles, and there is nothing, hey, that's impossible. And I'm standing here only because you are the waymaker, promise, light in the darkness, my God. Let's sing it again right there. And you move mountains, hey, and you cause walls to fall, and with your power, hey, perform miracles, and there is nothing, my God, that's impossible. And we're standing here only because you are the same way.
Miracle work, promise keep, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are.
Faith is the currency of the kingdom of God. Thank you for tuning in to Unstoppable Faith with Dr. Kazumba Charles. If this program has been a blessing to you, write to us at life@kazumbacharles.com and share your testimony.